Western Heights. This session, this video tutorial, is to complement the session video conferencing using interactive boards and screen casting, mirroring, and screen sharing. So as you can see, I am in a Zoom meeting, and you can see all of the controls that you have while you're in a Zoom meeting. So if you're going to host a live session where you teach students a live lesson, you could use a tool like Zoom, and you can share your screen. With that ability to share your screen, I'm going to go ahead and click on this button. You have the ability to do that through several different items. You can share the desktop that's visible right now in the left corner. You can select a whiteboard, which would be considered an interactive board, or you have the option to screen mirror using an iPhone, iPad with AirPlay, that's screen mirroring, or you can use an iPhone, iPad with a cable connected in order to share your screen. Under advanced settings, you can block out which portion of the screen you want to share. You can choose whether you share only music or computer sound. And you can even use devices that we have at the school, like your document camera, to hook up to whatever device you're using, whether it be a Chromebook or a MacBook. It just takes a USB. You can even buy extenders that you can use to hook up a document camera to an iPad, but an iPad really has, when you're using it with Zoom and you're mirroring in an iPad, it has the camera, which serves as a document camera all on its own. Then you can choose to also connect your Google Drive to share specific files to students or whoever is in the Zoom meeting with you. So I'm going to go back to basic and show you what it's like to share something simple, a whiteboard. I'm going to fix some of my settings here so that way I don't see myself in the presentation screen. And then I'm going to expand this whiteboard. Now, if I'm sharing this screen and it's fully expanded, then your students on the receiving end of this lesson are going to see the exact same thing. You can begin to record however you want. I'm simply using the annotation tools. When you scroll up to the top of your screen, you have different tools available to you, and your annotation tools pop up. So I'm going to put in a simple math problem, 24 times 2. And I'd like for you to imagine how this could be interactive with students, where you're asking them to then annotate. That's one of the options up here in your meeting. In your security settings, you can allow other people to annotate over the shared content, to answer the question and then share their screen with you. You have a lot of options that you can play around with. The chat tool is another really collaborative tool that you could enable for students to be able to use during the lessons that you're presenting. And we're taking a look at this as if it is a live lesson, and I'm teaching students how to cross multiply. So we're multiplying our 1's place value, and then we're multiplying our 2 by our 10's place value. And think about if I wanted to extend that out and ask students. I'm just going to type a text box here, and I want to ask students to break that down into how you really multiply 10's and 1's whenever you're multiplying double-digit numbers. So we'll say 20 times 2 equals 40. And then I'm multiplying 4 times 2, and I get 8. And all together, when we combine those, we get 48. Okay, So you can see how text can be used. You can use drawing to annotate. You really can do whatever you need to do to interact with students on a digital or an interactive board. So this board here is available. I would love to also show you, here are some other options where you can choose how much of the board students can see. You can choose to see if someone annotates. You can see who is annotating and what they're writing. That way, if something possibly inappropriate is written, you'd be able to remove that out. You also have other options when you're in a session where maybe you need to, you're doing an interactive game and you need students to leave the lesson periodically for a breakout room. You can put them in a holding room and bring them back as quickly as you sent them out. If you need to address an issue, that would be one way to do it and redirect students so that way you can get them back on task for learning. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here, and we're going to create a new share. Instead of the whiteboard, we're going to look at sharing and mirroring a phone or an iPad. So I'm going to follow the directions on the screen. I'm using my home Wi-Fi network, making sure that my iPad is connected to that network. And I'm going to swipe down from the right corner so I get my control panel, tap on screen mirroring, and I'm going to connect to the whatever device is listed, because that's the meeting where the Zoom meeting is being held. And you're going to be able to see my iPad screen. So notice all of the different devices that I have, or the different applications that I have on my iPad. One of them would be comparable to what we just used, which is Show Me. Show Me is a whiteboard app that's on your iPad that you can use to do this same exact thing that we were using Zoom for. It just gives you that added tool. I like writing a lot better on my iPad because I use my fingertips than I do with drawing on the keyboard of the MacBook, the touchpad. It's a little bit tricky, but that option is there. The main thing that I wanted to show for you and what you could use your iPad for while you are screen mirroring with Zoom. In a live lesson, I could imagine that this tool, your camera, would be really helpful. It can serve as a tool like a document camera, allowing you to really do whatever you want with your screen. We have document camera stands for iPads that are at the school, and we can organize how they could be checked out. That you can check it out and use it from your library and use it in your classroom. And it serves as a great tool for you to be able to conduct a live lesson or even record a lesson using this tool. Okay, once we exit that, it goes back to the main page and you're still seeing my iPad and different tools and apps that can be used. Another tool that I like to use a lot is called Padlet. It's a great tool to interact with students and get their thoughts based on questions that you pose to them. These are all great tools. ThingLink is very creative, but these are just other tools that you can engage your students in learning. Flipgrid is another tool that's great for engaging students in learning. So we'll touch on that in another session. I'm going to go ahead and stop mirroring. And notice it goes back to this screen, and I'm going to have to decide, am I going to go back to showing maybe what's on my desktop? So I am going to go back to do that and show you guys some tools that help us with presenting. So one tool that I could see being useful in a live lesson is presenting, like we would for this session, a set of Google Slides. So you see my slides pop up: video conferencing, interactive boards, and screencasting, mirroring, and sharing. This is the intro slide. And notice these are all the things that we would go through in the essential questions that we're talking about in this session. What tools are available for instructing with live video conferencing? Those are all outlined in this session, and I'll provide a list of them in this slideshow. How can you instruct students online using video conferencing, live or recorded? And to me, the most important question is, how do you determine which source of instruction fits student needs the best? When do you use a live session like with Zoom? And when do you use a recorded session? We're having a lot of discussion about this in the PD session, so I hope you're able to come up with your own answers, because I do believe that this question changes based on student need and based on the skill. You're going to find that you can record some lessons and present a flipped session, a flipped classroom. If you never heard of that, that's when you record a lesson, you present it to students, you give them time to process it, and then you come back in a live session and you check for understanding. So this is going to vary based on level and based on your readiness and student readiness. Western Heights teachers, that concludes our session on how to video conference using interactive whiteboards and screencasting, mirroring, and sharing. There are so many tools that we have available that are out there as applications on our iPad, on our devices, built into tools that we already use, like Zoom, built in applications that are added to computers in our rooms at school, devices that we have at school, like our document cameras. So please don't think that you are limited to what you have seen here. If you have any questions, please make sure you contact me. I put my contact information at the end of this. So just make sure that you let us know if you need help and if you have questions. And if you're an elementary teacher, just think about how you can easily pull up your SFA materials and lessons and use those with the tools that you've seen here on this session. Thanks a lot.